I woke up the next morning and went down to the kitchen feeling very worse for wear, and on the kitchen table was the tumbler for the night before and, the bartender's essential Barocca. And I'd been thinking the days leading up to that, how amazing Barocca was, that surge of energy, that surge of positivity that helped me get through certain days. And I just said, well, why can't the two be together? Was the very basic thought.
Hi, Low No Nation, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Low No Drinker podcast. Today, I'm very happy to introduce to you a man with a name that I obviously adore, and that is Mr. Hamilton Lowe. He is the founder behind the functional drink spirits brand Smiling Wolf, which if you're on video, you can see behind me just here. Hamilton and I met a few weeks ago when we were both speaking on the Future Trends panel for the Club Soda Low and No 10 years of Low and No Summit, which was absolutely a mammoth event. And a side note, if you didn't manage to make it there and you want to listen to our panel with our other panelists or any of the others, I believe you can go to the Club Soda website and get access to all the speakers that were available on that day. But today we are here to talk about functional spirits and all things Smiling Wolf. I've got to admit, this is not a category that I am very well versed in. So I'm going to be learning with you as I ask Hamilton what I'm sure he'll find are very inane questions. But if you don't ask, you don't know. So thank you so much for joining me, Hamilton. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me, Denise. Yeah, all good. Been a quick start out of the box this autumn, but we seem to be just about on top of things.
Yeah, you've had a lot of stuff going on, right? I mean, yeah. you're building this brand and getting it out there, and it just every time I speak to you, it seems like it's always like a whirlwind of just stuff being done.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a startup. We've got past experience in these things, but when you start, in the industry, but when you're a startup, nothing ever goes quite to plan. There's always something around the corner. You're not doing what you think you're doing. You're just putting out fires most of the time. So I hopefully we'll get into a rhythm soon. But yeah, it's a little manic at the moment. But in the drinks industry, autumn is a little manic with BCB and World 50 Best and all the events in Europe. Everyone's a little all over the place. So yeah, to be expected.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of events going on. There's a lot of stuff all over the world that I'm seeing. And obviously brands like yourself are sort of getting their wares out to everybody, which that in itself, I can imagine is quite an undertaking. But launching a brand, I mean, I've obviously launched my own business and my own elements, but I've never launched a product that's someone's going to consume in this way. And whilst I might have to contend with printers and getting a blog out, it's very different from actually producing something of quality for people to drink.
Well, I wouldn't do yourself that much of a disservice. It's the same. You always want it to look like a duck on the top of the water, and underneath it's those feet are paddling. You've got to produce content on a far more regular basis and organize it. And yes, printing is a part of both of our industries, and that always has certain challenges. So I wouldn't do yourself a discredit. Launching a brand in any sector is pretty darn difficult.
Oh, thank you, my sweet. It's interesting because obviously I'm privileged to speak to a lot of founders on this podcast, and some I speak to are like yourselves and they're just in that startup phase, and some that I speak to who have been doing it for quite some time. And it seems that it doesn't matter where you are in the journey, you're always putting out the fires, you're always learning, you're always developing. But I suppose that's part of the journey that we go on, right? If we want to produce something and make it be the best that it can be, then we're going to have challenges along the way. So it's just finding that tenacity to be, I always liken entrepreneurship to just being really, really stubborn.
Yeah, or masochistic.
Just not giving up.
Yeah, you know what you're in for. You say, yeah, it's going to be glorious, and you look back on it and you remember the good bits. But when you're in the middle of it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is. Did I really bite off more than I could chew here?
Well, let's talk a bit about what you've bitten off then and how you got to that stage. So I always like to start the show by asking my guests to share a bit of their backstory and start where you want to start. But what was the journey that led you to the point where you've launched this brand?
Wow, so it's been a very long journey. I started back in my mid 20s in advertising and got, but completely by chance, placed on the Johnny Walker account at a great agency called BBH. That is obviously a behemoth of an account, and does wonderful marketing, especially back in in 2010 to 12 with the Keep Walking campaign. It was really interesting watching, going up to go and see the distilleries with them and so on and so forth. And I then left advertising because I wanted to be more involved in the creative side of things, have more creative control. And an old school friend of mine had a cachaça brand in Brazil, of all places. And I was still young enough to say, you know what, let's go and have an adventure. Let's go build a brand and let's go and do it on the other side of the world. So packed our bags and moved to Brazil, which was great fun, an incredible experience. What a country! Um, for its good than its bad, it is never dull. That's for sure. I'm building a business out there, and I got to do it with my
I
best mate,
bet.
Chisa. So yeah, so we built this brand, and I got to have creative control. I'm not sure if I did a good job of it or not. And time will always tell. And that also allowed me to build myself in and experience the spirits industry globally. We launched in Brazil,
Mhm.
but then we went and launched in New York. So learning how everything in America worked, learning the great bars, the great bartenders, meeting them, and then back to the UK to come back home and start building it in Europe. And then also Asia, going and launching it in places like Shanghai, Singapore, Beijing, Bangkok. I mean, really, really got a real a whirlwind experience, which I treasure, and most of all, so many learnings of
Yeah.
how spirits works, how the industry works, the trade, the off trade, all these sort of things. So that's really how I got into the spirits industry, which was building a my first brand, and then in 2017 we launched a gin in Brazil to take advantage of the huge gin boom, which had already happened over here in Europe, but had just got to Brazil, and it completely boomed, and that product. Did very well, became the number one selling domestic premium gin, and the Cachaça Yaguara in 221 and 222 was the lead trending cachaça in Drinks International and lead selling. So we did a really good job. But how did I get to Smiling Wolf? Well, it was a bit of an odd one. Obviously, what happened during COVID is things changed a little bit, habits changed,
Mhm.
and our company started to work much more in Brazil again. I had beginning to start a family over here in the UK and couldn't really travel around as much, and so was really thinking to the future. What was the future? And to me, the start was seeing the undeniable human trend outside of our industry, but just a philosophical trend for everyone about people wanting to be healthier on a more regular basis for a variety of reasons, whether that was achievement, literally their health and wanting to live longer. Mental health was a massive one, and maybe one that I probably relate to the most, coming from the spirits industry. Um, and I wanted to see what our industry would do with this philosophical change. And the idea actually came to me in Sao Paulo, though, when I was over there for a meeting. And you know, I woke up the night after another Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton had just won the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, and I had a very bad night the night before, trying to get into bars and restaurants with my name being Hamilton. Because you go up to the door and say, yeah, "What's the name?" I say Hamilton, and they just look at you and basically tell you to, piss off. So I don't recommend that. And so I didn't have a very successful night, and ended up back at home with my friends. And I woke up the next morning and went down to the kitchen feeling very worse for wear. And on the kitchen table
Mhm.
was the tumbler for the night before, and the bartender's essential Barocca. And I'd been thinking the days leading up to that how amazing Barocca was, that I actually genuinely felt that surge of energy, that surge of positivity that helped
Yeah.
me get through certain days. And they were just sitting there next to each other. And I just said, well, you know, why can't the two be together? Was the very basic thought. It was, I love drinking spirits and going out, not only because of the taste and the environment and the people you're with, but I also do love the effect, and whether that's a wind up or a wind down. And it's amazing how spirits can go both ways. If you're up for a party, they take you one way. If you're wanting to chill out, they take you another way. And so I felt that maybe that would be a concept with this philosophical change that people would really warm to. Certainly, I would warm to. I wanted to create something which was for non-drinkers, obviously, people who don't drink spirits, but also for drinkers, for those people like me who could no longer go out 5, 6 nights a week all the time and drink alcohol, who wanted to zebra stripe or some days no and some days yes. I didn't like that feeling that, when you're tired and you used to want to go, someone say, come out, and you wouldn't go out, not because you didn't want to see them, but because, oh gosh, I might have to drink. And I just didn't have that option out there. And don't get me wrong, I'm a I love spirits still, and I still drink spirits, and I'm still probably on a Friday night. I'm still going to go and have, whether it's a margarita or a martini or a daiquiri or whatever it is. But it's all the other times that I'm in that situation, and I don't want to. I want to be sharp the next morning. I don't want to have that slightly mental health problem the next morning when I'm not feeling good. And I just looked at the beer industry and saw how the beer industry had come on so far in terms of quality. And I saw other spirits, non-alcoholic spirits brands had also in the quality of their liquids come so far, and started seeing some functional stuff going out there. And I just wondered if it was possible. Was the technology, the liquid technology, effectively there? And asked a few people, met my business partner, Alberto Gavazzi, who knew a gentleman called Steve Wilson, who Steve developed Bailey's back in the 70s. He physically, that was him. He did Tanqueray 10. He did Purdy's as the, upmarket, energy drink, if you will, as it was but now. And started speaking to him, is this possible? And his son runs one of the best functional labs in the country. And I said, is this possible? And they said, if you come to me 5 months earlier, we probably would have said no. But we think this is possible. And that was 3 years ago. And it's not a complicated concept. Is, can I have the same drinks that I love without the alcohol, but replacing it with a healthier, more 21st century buzz, feedback, whatever you want to call it, without the negatives? It's not a huge complicated concept, but it is one that to make has been hugely challenging and exciting at the same time. So yeah, that's kind of a journey from getting into the spirits industry and then wanting to be part of it with this new philosophy that there is around the world.
Well, first of all, let me say I'm very sorry that you've had such a very boring and stable sort of life where you've not gone there anywhere or done anything. I mean, it sounds terrible for you living in all of these places.
I know, awful. Just touring the world, going to the world's best bars and having some of the world's best drinks and having good times. Yeah, yeah. Why would I do that?
Tough life, but somebody's got to do
it. Absolutely.
You know, absolutely sounds like a wonderful experience, and I can see how all of those things would have come together, because I love it. We sort of say, I had this moment, this shower moment, or this Sunday morning moment, but it's not just that one moment, is it? It's all those things that we've done before, all those bits of our lives that have come together to get us to this one place where we've finally gone, hang on a minute, this is why I'm here right now. And I love that it was that sort of simple of going, seeing last night's drink and then this morning's Barocca, and going, these two should be working together.
It was Barocca, genuinely, I could feel Barocca. I couldn't say sometimes with other things I feel the Barocca I genuinely feel, and it's just like, surely there's something, as long as it doesn't come out tasting like fluorescent orange, we're fine.
I'm intrigued by what your colleague said at the functional factory, that if you'd asked him 5 months ago, he didn't think that this would have been possible, because it just speaks to how quickly this sector, our industry in general, and particularly your sector, is moving, because it seems like there is a lot of interest in functionality at the moment, and that it really is a growing interest, but at the same time, one that people seem to know so little about. I'm not sure if you notice it as much yourself because you're within it all the time. And I've noticed myself that I think that people know everything about what I do because I see it all the time. And then I speak to somebody who doesn't know much about the low no world, and I realize that they don't even know the basics. Um, are you finding that as you're getting this out to people, what are the questions that you're getting all the time about these functional drinks? Because are people understanding how to use them and what they can do for them?
The functional wow, are they drugs? Is kind of like the first thing that always gets asked. Like, no, they're not. No, are they mushrooms? No, they're not. Calm down. No. Look, I think functional. There's two sides to that answer to that question. One is that in the United States, functionals are huge, and they are, I think, in the top. They're now in the top three reasons for purchase after weight loss in the United States. Functional ingredients within all sorts of products, and so over there it's huge and it's growing and it's booming. The UK less so yet because I don't think it's quite come over here. But the strange thing is that we've had functionals with us for about 35 years. We just didn't realize it. So hydration drinks and supplements within those that sort of area have had functional ingredients in them for ages. Energy drinks, even though they're slightly more spiky and have a purpose of giving you a real boost of energy, which is sort of short and sharp. They've been around for a long time, but like anything, any technology, they've just developed. They've really developed. They've become more sophisticated, and they now, that whole world. It's moving away from just hydration drinks, sports drinks, energy drinks. It's now able to be tailored to work on things like dopamine, serotonin, things that make you relax, things that do energize you, but controlling that energy. They've just become so much more sophisticated, and in many ways, it's funny we're talking about bringing functionals into non-alc, but I also think that what ourselves and other brands out there are doing is actually we're the first time we're bringing functionals into the bar space. The bar and the restaurant space has never really actually brought those ingredients in there because there's never really been a product that fits them. Bars are by and large less likely to stock cans and all that sort of formatting. And actually, by putting them in spirits which live inside a bar and restaurant world, or putting them inside wines, de-alkalized wines, if they start doing that in the future, it's basically just bringing it into a space that they've never really been able to tap. So there's a couple of things going on there, but no, the reaction's been really good. People are very excited to learn about that here in the UK. They just knowledge levels are increasing, but there's a lot of education to do, a lot of explaining. But the bottom line is that you've had them in your world for a very long time. They've just become more sophisticated now that we can do a lot more focused and pinpoint more effects and work with them and use their benefits more than just hydration, sports drinks, and energy drinks, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some of those effects and those
Mm,
benefits then. So within the Smiling Wolf range, and we will get onto the drinks that are in that range, but first of all,
mm,
so that people can understand,
mm.
I know that your recipes is proprietary, and so you cannot tell me, the exact measurements of everything that goes in, and that's okay.
Mm.
But what is in your drinks that is considered functional, and what function do they produce for people?
What they produce. I think first is really worth saying. Just we've been using the word function, just explaining what functional is. Functional are ingredients which have specific physiological and health benefits beyond just raw taste and raw hydration. That's something we brought up in the panel we were on. Um, our approach to what we want to do, why we use the word functional, was because there was no barrier in our head. There was no barrier to what we could use to try and achieve what we wanted to achieve, as long as it was legal and healthy. Because
Okay.
if you're working with something maybe where the legislation is moving all the time, that's really difficult to create a product when the target is trying to hit a moving target. It's impossible. And we didn't just want to just do active ingredients or just do nootropics. Our approach to it really was that to create the effect that the feeling that we wanted to feel, people to feel, was to be a sum of its parts, and it's sort of split into sort of four different bits. So we use active ingredients, we use vitamins, we use nootropics, and we use amino acids. And in very basic terms, what we looked at is we looked at how the brain reacts with alcohol. There's different parts of the brain which activate effectively. And could we basically recreate the positive parts of those effects in the brain, and not the negatives? And the two negatives that we didn't want to have were anxiety and loss of control, which are fundamental to us. But what we did want is we did want to people to feel that sense of relaxation, and also improve cognitive function. And so instead of having a sort of an energy spike, we have long energy, which you want. You don't want to spike because then you have a crash. But the increased cognitive function allows you to wind up if you're in a situation to wind up, or the relaxation side of things allows you to wind down if you want to wind down. The brain is an incredible thing, because it basically will take you where it wants to take you. I'll give you an example. When you drink spirits, it's the same. I come home at 5 and I drink a beer and I wind down, and I've wind down. If I take if I take the same beer and have it at 9 at night, but I'm out, I wind up, and that's totally down to the way my brain wants to interpret that. And so basically, we're still offering the brain the two options of to wind up or wind down, but also we're making them less extreme. We want that light, feel good feeling. We don't want that spike, that loss of control, that bit that where many of our bad experiences come from. We don't want that. If you want to, if you want that we're not the product for you. But if you want that good feeling where you can go and control, and you can go up or down, and that's we're very much for you. I think to explain how it works as well, it's worth mentioning that when the alcohol goes into the system, it floods the brain with blood, and therefore it reacts. And basically, alcohol goes down those neurotransmitters. What we're doing is we're simply stimulating that part of your brain. We're not going down the neurotransmitter. We're stimulating it to produce the chemicals from your body, which basically give you those feelings. And so, rather than sending something down neutron, we're just stimulating you, and your body actually starts to do the rest. And that's why it's still healthy. It doesn't give you long-term effects, and it's actually perfectly healthy. There's absolutely nothing wrong. We're just stimulating your brain to do more of what it's already doing, rather than giving it something to affect it down the neurotransmitters. So that's kind of how our functional formula works between the four different bits.
It's really fascinating. It's really fascinating. How long did it take you to sort of come up with the right formula? And because I can imagine that with this being such a new area, there's been a lot of trial and error and experimentation and learning on your part, right? So how long did it take to actually figure out what this magic combination should be?
I think just on that side, because we kind of split Smiling Wolf into two sides. One is the taste, we talk about spirits and drinks in four dimensions. One, that it's a liquid; two is the taste; three is sensorial; four is effect. Right now we're talking about the fourth dimension, which is effect, and focusing in on that. Gosh, I think it probably took us close to 2 years. First, you try something, and uh, it's very difficult with these things, because you try them and you want to feel something, and it depends so much where you are. Am I having it at 11 o'clock? Have I drunk that morning? Have I eaten? Am I in an environment where I've got distractions? It's, again, just like spirits. Your environment really dictates how much it impacts you. And so, yeah, we went into it for for a year, yeah, close to 2 years. And I think after about a year, we felt we were getting somewhere. And then the last year was really tweaking certain elements of the formula to make sure it had that right balance for us, between relaxation and cognitive function, and making sure that at the end of it as well, if you drink something at 9 o'clock, you put your head on your pillow at 11 o'clock, and you're going to be absolutely fine. So it's tweaking levels and so on and so forth. But yeah, about 2 years.
And also, not only would you feel fine when you put your head on the pillow at 9 o'clock, but the following morning, which is a driver for a lot of people. My own driver into this world of a life less intoxicated was me saying to myself, it's not that I don't want to drink again. It's not that I'm going to go sober. I said to myself, I never, ever, ever want to have a hangover again. That was my goal.
Well, this is the sophistication of functionals and the liquid developers and science that's out there. I mean, we combine L-theanine and theanine, which is known to produce GABA, which is the alpha brain waves, which is very related to alcohol, spirits. But then when you combine that with low levels of caffeine, that's actually known to improve your sleep. Rather than, and who would ever think that actually caffeine would actually improve your sleep if treated in the right way? So that's what I mean about the sophistication of it. There is so much that people are doing, and we're having this conversation now, and in 6 months' time, it will move forward again. And I think all of us in the functional space will be constantly updating with new technology to, the goal is the same, but we can just improve it. And so I kind of often see the functional spirits, rather than in spirits world, you sort of make your spirit your first brand, and then maybe you come out with a navy cask strength, or a cherry cask, or a port cask. I feel like the innovation within our sector is more like having an iPhone, and then you're going to come out with iPhone 2, iPhone 3, iPhone 4 as things and technology moves forward and forward and forward. That makes it better.
Great analogy. I love that. Let's talk then about the range rather, and the drinks that are in the range. So for those who are watching this on YouTube, I've got behind me 5 bottles from Smiling Wolf. So Hamilton, can you take us through these and the flavour profiles? Because one of the things that I think people want to know about when it comes to functional drinks as well, because they're new to them, is how do they taste?
Well, the good thing about functionals is twofold. I mean, what to start with, I mean, if I were to give you a shot of the functional formula, it doesn't taste fantastic, but neither does alcohol. When you have raw alcohol, right? It's not the best thing. So right at the beginning, spirits were developed actually to make alcohol acceptable taste-wise. That, cocktails, that was kind of at the very beginning. And so there's a little bit of that going on with us, but the one good thing about functionals is that we can condense them down to such a small concentration that then the taste profile is taken over by what you fill the void with in terms of liquid, taste, flavor. So, to answer the question, you can't taste the functionals in our products. There isn't a sort of, my gosh, I can taste that thing at the bottom. And there might be a hint, and I can maybe get to it, but by and large you won't. And it's an adult taste, that little hint, but by and large, no one has ever come back to me in the 5 months that our product has been getting tasted and fed back on. No one's come back to me saying, "Oh gosh, I can really taste the functionals in that." That just doesn't happen.
What feedback are you getting? Are people loving the drink? Are they jumping at it?
The feedback has been fabulous. Especially they're jumping at it because most of us have cocktails, and whether those are classics, neoclassics, personal cocktails that we love, and just to be able to have that same cocktail and it tastes the same, and for it to give a little bit of feedback, get something back from that drinking experience, a little bit of effect, which is very pleasant, means that I'm standing in a bar, or I'm having dinner or pre-dinner, and I don't feel like I'm compromising compared to the person who's having a full spirits drink across the table from me. I'm having my own four-dimensional experience with the cocktail that I love, made by the bartender, which I love, in the place that I love. And it's, in many ways, this is all about not compromising to the nth degree on the experience more than anything else. I always found it so sad. You go out and you have, your night out is based about the people you're with, the place you are, the foods you eat, and the drinks you drink. And to compromise on one of the four was something that just irritated me. So I'm glad that we're starting to see products, Smiling Wolf and others, which don't mean that. But that's not answering your original question. The original question, what the taste profile. So we we wanted to
But
we
it was
want to
a good
work
answer, though. That was still good.
oh god, it's just maybe I don't know. We'll see in the edit. But the taste profiles, we wanted to go with sort of like the five base spirits that we felt we could really achieve a quality flavor profile, sensorial profile with. And that started off with, I'm just going left to right behind your head,
Okay.
rum. We made them all at the same time. Rum, which is, made from, all of our products are made from the original spirit. And then there are a few um, tricks, knowledge that we use, because every single type of distillation is different, and there are bits from each, whether it's gin to whiskey to tequila, whatever it may be. They are different types of distillations, and there are bits in them that one can use to create even more authentic flavor within your spirit, your non-alc spirit, as it would be. So that's kind of our base way we make them. The rum is aimed at a spiced rum. Um, Molasses, vanilla with oak. I personally, my two favorite drinks when I was younger, probably not so much, was spice rum or bourbon. Those were my things that I used to love doing. So I was really glad to do to go with spice rum. Then we have the gin.
Yeah.
So I used to have a gin company. Used to have a gin brand. Gin to me, there are wonderful gins with all sorts of botanicals in there, but predominantly you do need juniper. And so, juniper and citrus are the two predominant things that you'll get with our gin to get those nice, refreshing gin tonics, or, moving into Tom Collins or other gin cocktails that you might like. Aperitivo. I grew up in Italy when I was a kid, so I'm very fond of the aperitivo style of things. That's got 18 different botanicals in it: orange, wormwood, gentian, all these sort of things. I was a very big fan of Select when I was younger. Well, in my previous career, I always found that when I was out with Italian bartenders, Select would be the one that was brought along with us. And I've got a high level of respect for that brand. So we aspire to be like Select, which is kind of like Aperol, but it's got a bit more bitter in it, and a little bit more refinement, if you will. But it also allows that product then allows us to go. If you mix it with tonic, you go down towards Americano, and if you go mix it with like lemonade or non-sparkling wine, a non-alcoholic sparkling wine, you go towards Aperol sort of style drinks. But at the same time, I can also mix it with a gin and make a Negroni. So it's actually a very functional product within our range, if you will.
Yeah.
Then the agave, obviously, is tequila. We were on tequila, well, on the agave, we were looking to make sure we got those sort of green agave top note and the salinity on the nose. But then in the core of the spirit, we wanted a little bit more smoke, a little bit more of that burnt tropical note, which you get with tequilas. Tequila, is the hardest one, because if you take 10 tequilas, 10 Blanco tequilas or 10 Añejo tequilas, they all taste different, which is why the industry loves them, because they're so artisanal and authentic. So we kind of wanted to take the best from the range, which is, as I said, salinity on the nose with the green notes with a tropical cooked core. And then vodka is an interesting one. When we started, we thought, sounds a bit silly to do a non-alcoholic vodka, because vodka doesn't taste of much. It's supposed to taste neutral and clear and so on and so forth. And as we developed it, we realized that wasn't the case. One, because having the functional element meant that it made sense. When you drink, a lot of people drink vodka, it's to taste like the mixer that you put it with, and to get alcohol into it. So for us, it's the same thing. It's like to taste the mixer you're mixing with, but you get functionality put into it. But it also has a wonderful, if you open up a Grey Goose, for instance, you'll get a minty sort of note on your nose, and we do that. You also get pepper up front. And then one thing I wanted to do was to have something for people to just ping onto, which is a little bit of cereal note in the body of the structure, in the body of the liquid. So something, that wouldn't overwhelm flavor, but just something you could cling on to in terms of a flavor profile. So yeah, that's kind of the range, and we like to try and keep it within those because then there are so many fabulous products to work with, and we can be in the middle of that. But then we can work with, Amaro Lucano 00. We can work with Pathfinder. We can work with non-alcoholic sparklings. We can work with all these people and
Mhm.
facilitate that and partner with them rather than trying to be, every single ingredient inside the drink. That sounded complicated. Um, from well, certainly, I'm sure the sales reps are very glad that they haven't got to carry 15 bottles or whatever it might be. So yeah.
I wanted to ask, just while we're on the range, about the gin, because that's got a
Mm.
slight cloudiness
Ah,
to it. Is that
yes.
what's causing that? I know I appreciate people on audio can't see it, but it's just slightly cloudy.
Yeah, yeah. So this was an impasse that we came to in development, which is gin. As you know, basically gin is made from juniper oil, angelica oil, and oil in water. When you take away the alcohol, is not soluble. It goes cloudy. Um, and we absolutely went to the end of the earth, speaking to all sorts of crazy people in the States, technology, even sort of, dare I say it, areas of, physicists and all that sort of stuff,
Oh
to
my.
try and create the best nanotechnology that we could, because it's about, can we pack it in to the smallest amount? And we thought we would be able to do it, and we weren't quite yet. I'm sure we will in the future. And then we had a decision to make. Would we have a gin which looked clear but didn't quite have enough juniper in it? Or are we going to decide that, basically sod that, we want it to work in the drink to the best, like a gin does, and have that juniper flavor? And we went with the latter. And so that little bit of cloud is because we're making sure that there's enough juniper flavor in there, juniper distillate actually, in there to really taste like a gin. So it's a conscious
Okay,
decision.
okay, thank you. Oh, amazing. And I've got to ask you, Hamilton, because
Mm.
again, lots of founders I speak to, they're in the launch phase and they're really excited, and they talk about how much work it is, and what goes into it all. You've decided to launch 5 SKUs at once. Are you slightly crazy?
Well, that there's no doubt that I'm slightly crazy. I've been told many times, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think what we wanted to be able to do is, my dream is to be able to sit down in a bar and have that cocktail menu that I love, and to be able to be offered a large amount of the same cocktails in a non-alcoholic format. Just like we say, when you get offered a Coca-Cola, you say, "Would you like Coke Zero or would you like regular?" And that to me is the ultimate goal, because then there are 30% of people walking into bars right now who don't want alcoholic drinks, so they're basically, going down to a Coca-Cola or an orange juice or something like that, and they don't feel part of that experience. And bars and restaurants put so much work into delivering that experience, even within the drinks menu. To then not be able to be part of that means that that consumer is not getting that experience. And so the ideal why we went with those five, I mean, is because of exactly that. We wanted to be able to people to be able to show their menus and their full splendor to also the non-alcoholic drinker, and that just having one wouldn't probably have cut that. And originally we said three, but as we were in development, we said, you know what, we could do the other two as well. Why not have them all going together?
Ah,
Yeah, it did create a lot of complexity. And tasting sessions took ages, because you can't taste aperitivo on the same 2 hour period when you taste the gin, because your palate goes all over the place. But yeah, as I said, we bit off more than we could chew, but it's gone quite well in the end. It might be why it took 3 years to get here too.
well, I can imagine that. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. Like I said, most people launch with one, maybe two, but going with five, I mean, that's a real commitment to your cause. And I love the reasoning behind it. Absolutely. Making our bar menus, our pub menus, something that can be applicable to all people in all situations, so that their choices aren't limited to this one dusty bottle of non-alcoholic beer in the bottom of the back of the fridge that most bar staff don't even know is there, or as is often the case. I've had, I remember I've told this story before, but going to Centre Parks with my family a couple of years ago, and being in one of their eateries and asking what the alcohol-free drinks were, and being given the same choices that my kids had, and I'm like, well,
Mm,
that's not gonna cut it while my husband's sitting there having like his favorite beer. So
exactly.
absolutely, we need to make this so that menus, bar staff, wait staff can offer people choices, and everyone can feel like they're just part of something together, no matter what's in their glass.
Yeah, the last, up until very recently, there was sort of like a divide. You're drinking or you're not drinking. That sort of divided you, and I don't like that. There's so much effort that goes into making these products. Some of them are more expensive than to make spirits, or beers are more expensive than to make in the beer section.
Yeah,
And to just sort of be pigeonholed right from the off, it's like, you go in and you said, oh, I'll have that something non-alcoholic. Is it someone to manage? You're not drinking. I said, no, I am drinking. I'm just drinking something different. And I don't want that to, I, I don't, I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's good for the industry to keep dividing people down the future, because consumers are changing, and the horrible truth for all of us always is the consumers are right in the long term.
yeah, absolutely. Hamilton, this is amazing. Where can I send people? Because you mentioned cocktails before, and I do have your website open here, and you've also got a great selection of cocktails that people can make with your drinks. So,
Mm.
where do we send people that want to get to know more about Smiling Wolf? They want to get to know more about you, and they want to get their hands on a bottle or all five. Where's the best place for them to go?
Okay, well, in terms of bars, and we've only, we only started really in September, but if you go to the place like the River Cafe, if you go to Hakkasan, if you go to the Experimental Cocktail Club, Yautja, they've all started carrying us and put us on the menus, which is awesome, and we thank them for their faith in us. In terms of buying it, also a great place to try us is Club Soda, just off Covent Garden. They've got a great cocktail bar inside the store. They can mix up drinks for you. The whole range is there. We'll be live with all the Amethyst stores from the beginning of November, so that's just around the corner. But also the best way to get hold of us is to go to our website, which is smilingwolf.com, and all the products are up there, and for next day delivery. We will also be live with Amazon in about 2 weeks as well. So for those who, just trust that Amazon's going to get it there on time, that's always always good. So yeah, there's places, and hopefully more and more as the months roll on.
Wow, you've definitely hit the ground running, because those are some fantastic listings for a brand new launch, and then all those other places that we can just go and just make it easy. I think that's the most important thing with these low known functional products, is just make it easy for people to get hold of them and to try them, because a lot of the barrier that I hear from people is, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to get them from. Um,
Yeah,
so
and you know how to
that's
use
great.
them. That's the other thing. You know how to use them. If you've ever made cocktails or drinks, even if it's just like a gin tonic, all the way up to something more complex. If you've done that before, then you'll know how to use our product. And so don't worry about, I'm not sure how to make a drink. You definitely do. Just do it as you normally do.
And as I mentioned, there are some great recipes on the website. If anyone's looking to
Yeah,
be a bit more adventurous, they can go. You've got aperitivos, there's Tom Collins, your Negroni recipe, a screwdriver, and a porn star martini as well, for those
yeah.
who
Well,
really
yeah.
like that clubbing moment.
Well, yeah. If
Fantastic.
you're really ready for a night out, then maybe start with that. Start with the espresso martini, and then move on to porn star martini.
Hamilton, it's been fabulous chatting to you. But before I let you go, I have one
Mm,
last question for you, which is one that I ask everybody that comes on the show, because
sure.
I am all about spreading the Low No love across all of Low No Nation. So
Mm,
we are recording in late October, but the weather is still okay. Um,
hmm
Imagine it's warmer than it is now, though, and you're off to a barbecue at a friend's house. Other than bottles of the fabulous Smiling Wolf range, what else would you be taking with you that you like to enjoy when you're deciding or choosing for that event not to drink full strength alcohol?
Oof. Can I say a range? It's probably not just one.
Yeah, you go for it.
Well, I love Lucky Saint. I think it's a great beer. My wife discovered it before I did, and this is 2 years ago. I think I think it's awesome. I think I would probably also from a spritz. I love Botivo. I love the taste. I think it's incredible packaging. The story is wonderful. I haven't been able to taste Silver yet from Ben, but everything that it looks like, it looks so cool in a dark spirits area. So I'm excited to do that. So maybe that would come with me. Um, and then yeah, I probably bring a little bit of water with me, and I like drinking it out of that rock and roll can from Liquid Death. So let's say those four would be the things I would bring with me at the moment.
Good choices. Can I make a confession? I
Mm.
didn't realize that Liquid Death was just water until a few
No,
months ago.
none of us
I
did.
thought it was like, yeah, I thought it was something. At least, at the very least, I thought it was, like a, what do you call it, an energy drink or something like that.
Mm.
But I assumed that it was booze, and I found out it was water. I was blown away. I was like, oh my god, this is the best branding for water I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is mental. I'm not a water drinker, and I never am. But then I find it easy to drink it out of that format. So read into that what you will, but it works, and
Genius.
it's just cool. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just bloody cool.
And Silver, yeah, because I'll just mention that one because I'm sure that a lot of people might not yet have heard of it. So
Mm.
this is one of Ben Branson's creations. He's just released Season, which were his two bitters, cocktail bitters, and now he's produced Season, which is going to be a selection of dark spirits made with wood infusions in this sort of futuristic lab that they set up that does all this kind of strange alchemy of making drinks, and it just sounds out of this world. I can't wait to try some.
Same. I've got my pre-order in,
Um,
so I'll hopefully see it. Hopefully
yeah,
to get to taste it soon.
soon. Hamilton, thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure speaking to you. You've
No,
been really helpful in opening up the category and making these drinks more accessible for us to understand what they are used for, what they do, and how they can taste and how they can be part of a life less intoxicated. So thank you so much for joining me
no,
today.
thank you very much for having me, Denise. I appreciate it.